The aftermath of what happened with Charlie Kirk, we are seriously living among other Americans who think that this was a good thing for whatever rationale they have.
People on the right in America have been so dehumanized that the people you're referring to are now under a spell, almost like a kind of psychosis where they've dehumanized people who are associated with the political movement.
Americans are different, right? Aren't we? Don't we value freedom completely differently than most of the rest of the world?
Americans are feral in a really beautiful way that I've come to appreciate even more as I've gotten older and been in the world.
To watch people, many people, seriously accuse you and I of being professionally made Russian propaganda was absolutely hilarious.
I consider myself right-wing. I'm not a Democrat. Being kind of nice and curious about being public, about being a Trump supporter like a couple of years ago, to now I'm just like, I've had enough.
Turn the lights down. Turn the lights down and just put this on. It's right behind you.
The only garbage I see floating out there is just supporters.
Greetings, loyal ladies and gentlemen of the Garbage Gang. Welcome to another episode of the Garbage Gang podcast. Remember, if you want to be a member of the Garbage Gang, we need you to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Today, we are graced with the presence of a very special guest. He's a co-founding member of the Garbage Gang podcast. He is the host of the Johnny Chaffin Show. Everybody loves him. Ladies and gentlemen, Johnny Chaffin. How you doing, Johnny?
Hi, Mike. Good to see you.
It is great to be back with you. It always feels like it's been too long.
It does, yeah.
And last time we spoke, it seemed that LA was on fire, although you informed us that it was only a very small portion of LA. And since then, what's been going on out there?
Yeah, since the last time we spoke was during the riots, which were limited to downtown, like a couple of blocks of downtown LA. But things just continue. I mean, that part of it has died down, but just the absurdity of California and Los Angeles continues. Like the slow rebuilding process of the Palisades, where people are getting fined by the state and the city. Very few permits have been given out. There's still tons of crime here. The gas is expensive. It's, the California dream that it's been for the last several years.
It seems that since our last episode together, Newsom has picked a major fight with Trump and seems to want to run this next time around. I feel like every single day he's directly attacking Trump. It almost seems like, where does he get the time to actually run the state of California?
Yeah.
Have you noticed
that? I think running the state of California is like an afterthought to whatever narcissistic endeavor he's involved in, which happens to be launching his campaign for president in 2028. So he's doing this like ridiculous mimicry of Trump, like the tweeting in all caps. He got this new image woman or social media woman. I can't remember what her name is, but this is obviously an expensive strategy. And it's just absurd. And it doesn't work. It doesn't land. The memes of him with like a crown and this king, like just kind of trying to copy Trump. And like the thing that makes a meme work is that there's a truth. And he's the most inauthentic, like there's no truth to any of it. So it doesn't land or work. But it is kind of funny to watch him sputter.
We've talked about this before, how there are people on the right who try to imitate Trump or emulate Trump, and it really doesn't work. There's only one Trump. And when people are inauthentic, regardless of maybe you agree with some of the policies, it doesn't work. It falls flat on its face. It's even worse when you have somebody who's constantly criticizing Trump for his characteristics, who goes out there and tries to basically copycat him. Isn't that true?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. He's like a completely inauthentic construction of he's a persona. Um, so he's just completely inauthentic. So it doesn't work. And to your point on other figures in the administration it doesn't work for anybody to try and mimic Trump, like not Kirsty Nome or Hegseth or Dan Bongino, or Cash. Like it does not work. These people, I wish, would just like put their heads down and do their jobs, and stop it with the play acting.
So, has anything different been going on in California as far as people waking up and sort of coming on to the problems that you've got over there, and that maybe there is time, that this is the time for a political change?
It's hard to tell because for every person that you think has woken up, you're just reminded of how crazy this place is and how captured people's minds are. So it's very difficult to, try and understand what the reality is like when people actually hit the ballot box and are going to vote. There do seem to be a lot of people who are angry about the way the Palisades fire was handled. Like Spencer Pratt has done a lot of really good work in reporting and creating awareness. But I still like, on my way over here, I was thinking about the first time we spoke, uh, which was, I think, a year and a half ago or something, um, and how little has actually changed. What's changed for me is that instead of being kind of meek about the whole thing and polite and trying to explain my views and, um, I think I've become like kind of jaded by the whole thing. And I have so much less tolerance, with the day-to-day interactions that I have with people. I'm just like, I'm over it.
That is
I even
interesting.
I saw these two guys. I'll give you an example. Like these two guys, I was at the meat counter at Whole Foods, and these two guys had both lost their places in the Palisades, and they were talking, so I could not help but eavesdrop on their conversation. And one of the guys was like in his 60s, and I'm like, okay, this guy has to be. He's either a Republican or he's woken up from this incident. And I very politely was like, "Hey, I'm just, or how do you feel? How do you feel like things are going and that things were handled during the fire?" And he just started making excuses for Karen Bass and for Newsom. And it was so disheartening. I'm just like, okay, dude. Like I just stopped the conversation right there and was like, oh, cool, and walked away. Whereas I would have maybe a year ago, I would have like tried to throw in a little like, well, don't you think, X, Y, or Z? So I have less, I've got like less tolerance for it.
Don't you think maybe the government should do its job and not infringe on every portion of your life, ask questions of that nature? But today you just feel like it's a lost cause. Is it almost like a hopelessness thing?
No, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what the reality is, like as far as voters and who's going to turn out and, you know, how many people are actually switching parties and registering Republican. Like what is the reality of that? I get like I think everybody gets this now, which is like a vibe, you know? It's like based on Instagram, I think the political situation is X. But that's just the world we live in now because if there are people who read the legacy media and then there are people who are on X. Um, and I don't know. This is a whole other thing about discernment of content and things like that. I feel like in a way we're almost everything is like a George Floyd moment, the way that people are affected by news and information. A 15-second clip of a video is how people formulate opinions on issues rather than on data and statistics. So we're
Mm.
just getting like bombarded constantly with like little clip. What about this? Oh my God. And if you're younger, that's the way that you're wired, is just to watch like clips of things. So I feel like that's happening every day, all the time. It's just like the new reality. So to understand, you know, what the polling looks like, what the vibe is, difficult to say. I would love to say that things are changing, people are waking up, people are registering Republican. It's just not clear.
You mentioned that it was a year and a half ago the first time we sat down, which is pretty wild because it feels like I've known you my entire life in
Yeah.
some respects. It feels like we've been old friends for years and years. But in that first conversation, we talked about certain different policies and everything. I don't believe you overtly supported Trump during that interview. We did talk about the Second Amendment and some other issues that hinted that perhaps you weren't a rabid leftist, at least, right? Now, going from a year and a half ago to today, where in between you had talked about how you didn't like Trump, the person, the character, but felt like it was necessary for him to win to essentially save Western civilization. Where you are today, being the liberal for Trump, can you see yourself voting for Democrats from here on out based on where things are today as opposed to where they were even a year and a half ago?
Oh, never. Like I think when we spoke a year and a half ago, I had already voted for Trump in the 2020 election. I was just at that time, I was like not public about my views and was kind of tiptoeing around and like suggesting things to people. Um, and then like I had already bought guns. I was already a gun owner at that time. And now I consider myself right wing
Mm.
now. Like I'm not a Democrat or a, I think I use the term liberal in the sense of classic liberalism. But yeah, I've like the awakening in the last it kind of started. It's funny, like I was talking to a friend of mine about stuff I started watching in 2015, 2016. Which I didn't vote for Trump in 2016, but I watched like my friend sent me a video of Milo at this pizza place in Indianapolis where there was a scandal that uh, this conservative Christian religious couple were they were refusing to cater a wedding for this lesbian couple that was getting married. And the way it was reported that it was like this very discriminatory, terrible thing. And Milo, who's a controversial figure, I think he's like hysterically funny, and kind of brilliant. But at the time he made this video, he's gay, and he went to that pizza place and he interviewed the owners. They were like this old couple. It was a small business. They did not discriminate against him at all. So he like bought pizza from them, and it was just for them. It was they have no problem serving customers or whatever. They just didn't want to cater a wedding because of their religious views. It's like you also have to respect their views. So that there were things like that along the way that were, I think that was 2015 or 2016. I'd have to look at it, but I saw things like that that were very eye-opening, and I could see how that story was twisted. And also what I've been thinking about that recently, just because there's an intolerance now on the left for people who are religious and who believe in God. There's an intolerance of that, um, of that light. It's not even a lifestyle. It's just intolerance of people who are religious or have a spiritual life. Uh,
Yeah.
so I started, it's like things have it's kind of changed along the way, but now I'm like, I consider myself to be right wing. I think it would be like, I think liberalism and leftism is like childish.
I know that you've certainly had people reach out to you in the last year and a half and say, I have a similar story, meaning I used to vote Democrat and now I don't anymore because of what I've learned over the last few years. Have you had anybody reach out to you who had not yet made that decision, but was sort of exploring whether they were going to no longer vote for Democrats? Has that happened over the last year and a half?
Yeah, I mostly Jews after October 7th who were like, I don't like Trump, but I mean, I think we're in danger and Trump is the only thing that's going to save us. So mostly I would say like Democrat Jews, not leftists, not like Free Palestine leftists, but Democrat liberal Jews who maybe reluctantly voted for Trump. Uh, and then there's a whole, I think they're probably like now they're free press readers, that kind of thing, which, that's a whole other, this kind of fake centrist thing. I don't really know that there are centrists.
You're seeing people who are claiming centrist and you don't believe are?
I don't know. I mean, I think the free press would consider itself like centrist, common sense, reasonable. Um, and I do appreciate what they've done. Like it's not like a censored disc. It's definitely an improvement on the New York Times and the Washington Post, but it's still like gatekeeping a discourse and they still exclude right-wing voices from their editorial. It's heavily also there's too much coverage of Israel, even for me. Um, so there's like they want to dominate the discourse and the dialogue also. And they're spiritually liberals. They're just a little bit more reasonable. So if you got into, for me, the litmus is like, what's your stance on the Second Amendment? I think that's the biggest one, actually. I just had this woman on Twitter. I had my first Twitter argument.
Love it.
A large Twitter influencer who, uh, and I never do this. Like, I don't want to spend my time arguing with people on the internet about stuff. But it's this woman who has, I don't know, 100,000 followers or something, and she was accusing Megyn Kelly of being a Qatari agent.
Hmm.
And I find this so problematic for um, people who are blaming people who blamed like Charlie Kirk because he adjusted his views a little bit on Israel or was in the process of doing so, or Megyn Kelly because they're not like 1000% in lockstep on Israel policy. So this woman was accusing Megyn Kelly. It was like she reposted this thing. She's taking all that Qatari money. So I just replied and said, "Keep it up. You'll alienate every supporter of the Jews in Israel." On the right, keep it up. And the woman totally flipped out. And I had all these other people messaging me. And the reason I mentioned this is I said to her, she was like, "Who are you?" She was hysterical. And I just said, "Do you own guns or not?" And she was like, "What does that have to do with anything?" And I'm like, "It's everything. If you're a Jew and you live in America and the history of your people is pogroms and the Holocaust, and you read the diary of Anne Frank, of this girl, like, waiting to be taken. And now you live in America and you have the freedom to own guns and protect yourself and your family. And you were spouting all of this stuff, but you haven't taken those measures to protect yourself, like your own kind of independence and sovereignty after everything that's happened to your people that is like in the front of your consciousness, and you're not doing it. It's like you're not serious, for me.
That's a very, very solid point. Uh, I never understood that, why there were people who, knowing that history, would still want the government to have a monopoly on firearms, right?
Yeah,
Only the police and the military should have them. Well, that hasn't worked out very well in history, has it? And why would you not want to be able to protect yourself and your family in the first place? Do you think that a lot of people just simply don't want that responsibility? That they feel like they're taking on, it's too much responsibility for them to take on, to have to protect themselves and their loved ones, and they'd rather say, "Yeah, no, I'm going to delegate that to somebody else."
I think it's a cultural thing and an awareness thing. Like right-wing Jews own guns. Like
Mm.
they get it, but I wasn't raised with guns, and I wasn't raised even with all the programming about Jewish history or whatever. It was like, why would you ever need guns? We're totally safe. It was like wackadoodle to think that you, like the government could, in the United States of America, could infringe on you or you'd be in danger because of who you are. It would just be like unthinkable, but also in the culture, like growing up as a liberal Jew in Boston, like nobody had, like one of my friend's dads randomly had a gun because he was a judge and like carried a gun to the bench every day, but nobody had guns. Um, but the for me, the whole thing was the COVID, like the tyranny of the pandemic is what crystallized it for me. It's like, oh, these people they don't care. And tyranny is alive and well. And the only failsafe against it is gun ownership. You don't have to be a gun nut or love guns. I don't love, like, I'm not a gun nut, but it's a necessity and a responsibility.
It's okay. I'll make up for the part of you that isn't a gun nut by being extra gun nut.
I'm like a poser gun nut. I go on like gun websites and like I like the whole thing, but I'm not on the weekend. I'm not like I'm shooting every weekend.
You don't have a healthy addiction yet, is what you're saying.
I guess not. Yeah.
Or an unhealthy addiction. But I think that just shows how important it is to value what the Second Amendment does to distinguish the people of the United States of America from every other country in the world, and why we continue to be a free country if we can maintain this, right? They said a republic if you can keep it. And that's incredibly important. And we're seeing what's happening in places like the UK, right? With, not only are the citizens at a disadvantage from being able to protect themselves, but now we're seeing more and more government overreach. I think there was an announcement that a digital ID is going to be taking effect here relatively soon, and either comply or else, and create. Uh, I don't know if they're going towards creating a cashless society, but we talked about in the last time we got together for an episode the potentiality for having something along the lines of the mark of the beast, where AI is integrated into the human brain. And obviously having a digital ID doesn't go quite that far, but if it's something that's required to be able to participate in civilized society, it really, it reminds us of 2021, when if you didn't have your zucchini card, then you couldn't get into certain places or certain businesses, and you were treated like an outcast of society, right?
Yeah. I just texted with my friend this morning in the UK and told him that we could marry him off to an American girl.
Mm-hmm.
We can avoid the digital ID is, I think it's in 2029. But that place is lost to me. Like people get arrested for social media posts. They have no gun. It's a disarmed population, as you mentioned. Like I don't that play. It doesn't interest me anymore. It's almost I don't I've wondered. Other people have mentioned this online. Like, should we change our diplomatic relations with the UK? Like, do we want to? Would that change things if the United States of America like changed our special relationship with the UK and said, sorry, you guys don't believe in free speech, and we're not doing digital ID, so we're gonna have to change this relationship. That's how serious it is. But those, I mean, what do you do if there was the big Tommy Robinson rally? I think it was last weekend. There were supposedly 3 million people there. Um, so I'm sure people are angry and waking up, but it's that the psychological failsafe of an armed population. It's like it goes into the calculus of a government body. If you're trying to force something on the population, it's like, well, we can only go so far here because there are 400 million guns in this country. So, yeah, it's an interesting thing to wake up to. It's like you're back in the real world. I used to think people were paranoid. But this is not paranoia. This is the real world.
That rally that you just referenced, I don't know how many people exactly were there. You'll have people on different sides claiming different numbers. All I know is when I see the footage, that seems like the largest amount of people I've seen in one location in a very, very, very long time. It almost didn't look real. So it seems that there are a number of people who have awoken to this, but is it too late, right? If you've got the party that's in power, because that election with Keir Starmer was relatively recent, right? So he's not going anywhere anytime soon. And this is what the people voted for. And this is what's coming to fruition. You do raise a good point. Why isn't this treated any differently than other human rights violations, right?
Yeah. Um, yeah, I don't know what's gonna happen to I have friends there also that are that are Labour Party voters in the UK that would have voted for this. That somebody sent me a nasty message on WhatsApp about 6 months ago. So I've lost friends there too.
What was
Um,
the nasty message about?
it was about Tommy Rob. Oh, you know what? I posted something on my Instagram about Tommy Robinson because he's got an interesting story. He was like a soccer hooligan initially, would like go and fight on the weekends. I forget which club he supports. And then he was part of the English Defense League, which was like I don't know enough about it, but I think it was like nah maybe um initially racist or something, or racist adjacent, something like that. And then he disavowed it. And he made a film with Majid Nawaz on Islam, like the two of them. And he's done all of this reporting over the years on, you know, mass illegal immigration to the UK and Europe, the change of the culture, um, and is clearly like, the latest iteration of his movement is just people who are pro freedom and nationalists. And he's been jailed multiple times for free speech violations. A couple of them he did violate like a gag order on a trial, but he also um, uh, brought awareness to all of the rape gang stuff in England, which is like an incredibly, almost incomprehensible scandal and disgrace, where all of these girls were raped and trafficked like at a mass scale in England, and it was covered up and allowed, and even some authorities like participated in it. So Tommy has done all of this brave work He got arrested in Canada for coming here. But in their minds, they're low information, they're like artists and stuff. They're low information people. So their view of Tommy Robinson is that he's like a racist football hooligan. Um, and he's got a certain kind of accent. He's very working class. So they like, it's very similar to how I think a class of liberal elites in America would view, a flyover state Trump voter or something or activist. So that's how that came up. I posted something about Tommy Robinson because he had been jailed for the whatever fifth time or something. And one of my friends reached out and was like, "Are you out of your mind? This guy is like, he's a racist." Da 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 da. So that's it's almost the exact same story as we've lived here in America.
And he belongs in jail was the point that your friend was making.
He was like, I was even platforming, like mentioning a person that is like so despicable that I shouldn't even, it was like so shameful to even mention Tommy Robinson's name.
Do
Um,
they just not get it though? Is there a different perception of freedom of speech here in America than there is over there? Americans are, in general, Americans are different, right? Aren't we? Don't we value freedom completely differently than most of the rest of the
yeah,
world?
Americans are like are feral in like a really beautiful way that I've come to appreciate even more as I've like, gotten older and been in the world. Um, and people think we're like slightly crazy, but it's like it's a good this is a very positive thing. Um, I don't know enough about UK law, but there's clearly like um laws against posting hateful and inciting things. And there seems to be a lot of latitude on what incitement is. So, and that's the problem with any kind of violation of free speech in the First Amendment. It's like becomes this like a bargain or becomes subjective as to what is like a violation of speech, and then you get into blasphemy and like, oh no, we can't offend. Like we absolutely can offend. And I thought Pam Bondi, I don't know if you saw that comment she made in the press conference about hate speech. For me, that's like she should be fired or resign. I don't know if she misspoke or like or what, or she doesn't get the First Amendment. But that was like for me, that was like she's got to go.
Yeah, that was definitely something that I don't like to hear. And people pushed back. She came out and made some sort of clarification as to what she meant by hate speech. And it's when she explained, it was sort of like, well, that's not how we've learned to understand the term hate speech. So please don't say that anymore. Like if you're calling for violence on other people, that's not hate speech. That is
Yeah.
calling for violence on other people.
And I just
Hate.
like to point out, like,
Just don't use that term anymore, please.
yeah, stop it. But also, I'd like to point out, I call him like I see him. Like she's Trump's appointee was aging like she should be fired. Like I don't. I think on the right, people are much more reasonable about these things, and there's less groupthink on like, whereas if it were on the other side of the aisle, it would be like, that didn't happen, or she didn't say that, or, well, there'd be some like bargaining or cover up for it. But it's like, no, this is like,
she,
we
she
got to
totally
call
said it.
it.
She totally said it. It wasn't good. When she later clarified and defined it, it was like, how did you come up with hate speech for that definition? Because it's not the same thing, dude. And it didn't seem unreasonable as to what she claimed she meant. But it's kind of like, how do you make that mistake? Please don't do that again. We don't like to hear that. We don't want to hear that. And we're not going to stand for that if that were your actual position. So that is a good point. That they always accuse MAGA, is how they call it, of being a cult. But the people who were a part of this movement and believe in these values are the first to call out our own side if we see something that is concerning. I mean, the zucchini is just an example of that as well, as to how many people, even though it was a product of Trump getting it all done in record time and him touting it as one of his accomplishments, and who are the people who resisted more than anybody else? The people on the right, his own voters. So
Yeah, that's a good point.
just evidence that this is not a cult or groupthink, as you mentioned. People will stand up for individual issues that are important to us on this side. That also becomes somewhat of a liability politically through the process. You see all the infighting on the right in Congress and how difficult it can be to get certain things done as a result of it. The left isn't like that, are they? They're all in lockstep with the agenda and everybody gets in line. So it puts us with the political system at a disadvantage to be that way, doesn't it?
I guess I think the bigger issue are cowardly Republicans who are basically part of the establishment. They may not be Democrats, but they're not doing their job. And they're, people call them rhinos or whatever. I think that's the issue. Yeah, I almost find that more disgraceful than the other side of the aisle.
Who would be some examples of that? You don't want to call them, not to call anybody out or anything like that, but
Well,
we all know.
Even the libertarians like Massey and Rand Paul, like they don't do anything. They don't pass anything. They just they just dissent or abstain. It's childish. Like they're not even like a part of the political system.
So they're not bringing anything to the table that would change anything for the better. Instead, they're just sort of creating an obstacle in certain situations, or I guess in other situations, just like you said, dissenting without any real impact on anything.
Yeah.
What do you think about how Trump has done so far? I know when we last spoke, it was very early in the administration, and it still is, by all accounts. We're not even a year in. What do you think about the performance so far?
I'm happy about a lot of the executive orders and stuff. I think like the border being closed is like an incredible feat. Um, I don't know about the tariffs yet. I think we'll have to see because it's not clear to me who winds up paying them in the end, if it's passed on to the consumer or not. I know there's more tax revenue. I don't see any solution to the deficit. I like Scott Bessent, but I don't like what's the plan here for the deficit. Um, and I'm unhappy. The area of the Trump administration that I'm unhappy with is the prosecutions. I know I think he just got indicted. But there aren't nearly enough prosecutions. Uh, all of the stuff that has gone on with Russiagate and everything else, we need to have a reckoning with all of this stuff so that we can move forward as a country. All of this has to be dealt with. Whoever broke the law has to be prosecuted. And it's just moving. For me, I don't know I'm sure there's a lot of work to do here. You don't just reform and turn like a giant aircraft carrier like on a dime. But I wish it would move faster, and I'd like to see what's actually going to happen here.
The reaction to Comey is pretty incredible from the left. When you start prosecuting your political opponents, this is how we lose our democracy. It's like, I'm sorry. Were you around a couple of years back? Like, it is kind of funny, though, to hear them come out and say things like this after all that's happened, isn't it?
It's absurd. It's like epic gaslighting. It's epic gaslighting. It's like the accusing um Trump of something that they've been engaged in at scale for years. Um, yeah, it's disgusting. So it has to like these people all have to be prosecuted. If you broke the law, you have to be prosecuted. Period. End of story. Um, what about like all of these billionaires who have funded leftist movements like Soros and Reid Hoffman and this guy in the UK? There's a guy in China. Like this all has to be dealt with. This is crucial. Um, So I don't know. I'd like to see. I'm happy about the Comey indictment, but it's for me, it doesn't even like scratch the surface. And I don't know if the right people are in place. Like, I don't know if Pam Bondi is the right, is she like the right person to do this? This is like a serious, this takes a special type of person. I don't know if Kash Patel is the person for the FBI. He seems like I don't, it's hard to tell what's actually going on behind the scenes. Um, but this is like it's a large organization that needs structural reform, and there are tons of like rogue agents. Um, it's a huge undertaking, and I don't know if he's the guy to do that. I supported his appointment initially because it was it was like payback. Like we're gonna put Kash Patel in that seat after you went after him. And now I'm like, I don't know if this is the right guy.
Well, you're the one
Uh,
who brought up the Plot Against the President documentary,
yeah,
and he was a very, very big part of that documentary. What excited me about him being in charge is that it seemed as if he knew where the bodies were buried, so to speak. And if you get somebody in power who understood all the corrupt things that were going on, that would be the way to accomplish justice. Obviously, it's not exactly turned out that way at this point in time. I would think that this is not enough time to get the ball rolling on a lot of these things. I think far too many people watch Law and Order and sort of get this false sense of how the justice system works because
guilty.
the case is over in an hour, right?
Well, at the same time, I was going to mention, him yelling at Adam Schiff and calling him like a liar. Like, I love that. That is like that like lifted my spirit watching him yell at Adam Schiff. But then I'm also like, that's not the job here. I love that, but like that's just window dressing. Like you're the director of the FBI. Can you lead all of these people? Do you know how to reform a giant agency? And then the other thing that a couple of things have bothered me. He went on Joe Rogan for 3 hours with a cigar. It's like, this is what we were talking about. Like people think they're Trump or something. Like, dude, get to work. People have risked everything to get Trump elected and to save this country. And like the first 6 months, you're gonna go have a cigar on Joe Rogan for 3 hours? Like, what? Like you have 3 hours? No. Like get to work.
I
Um,
will. I
so
will say to some degree, I appreciate the transparency in government and somebody being able to sit down and share things. But the problem is that during that 3 hours, he wasn't able to say. There was so much. I'm not able to talk about that, and I can't say anything about
I
that.
think it
There's a
was
waste of time.
it was like his own self-promotion and narcissism and like image managing. Like, don't manage your image. Like, go get to work. This is like a transcendental moment that requires like incredible work. I wish Stephen Miller could just take over all of this stuff.
Excellent orator.
Yeah, and I think he's like he gets it and he's serious and is like, at the task. Um, and then the other thing was, and seeing Dan Bongino, like, I mean, I don't know what you think of Dan Bongino, but he seems totally out of his depth. He's complaining on talk shows about having to work and be in an office. And he just doesn't seem like, I don't know how smart he is. He's
Do you think the
deputy,
files?
he's like deputy director of the FBI is Dan Bongino. I don't know. I think this is a blind spot that Trump occasionally chooses people. He chooses loyalty over competence. Um,
It's also tough because the first time he did this, right, his first administration, he surrounded himself with people who did have experience. But the problem with surrounding yourself with people who have experience is they're likely a part of the swamp. And that
True.
makes things a whole
That's
lot more difficult. And
that's true.
to a certain degree, you need outsiders to come in and shake things up. So there's give and take, there's pros and cons with both of those. Do you think that the fact that the Epstein files have not been released is to some degree a measuring stick for a lot of people as to the job that they're doing? Because I think a lot of people wanted transparency. They wanted to see those come out. And we have people like Cash and Dan Bongino who called for the release prior to being in, and now they say that they don't exist, or at least certain things don't exist. Do you think that's relevant at all, or?
It's definitely relevant because it's such an area of interest for people. Everything is like, what about the Epstein file? And Pam Bondi, she did say, I don't know if she misspoke, but she said they had like all of these files and videos and stuff. Why did she say that?
That's a
Why?
rough one to misspeak on.
Yeah, like I mean, how can you misspeak on that? And then that press conference with Cash and Bongino, the two of them look like spooked. Kind of like there's something else going on that we're not aware of, like behind all of this, and they're just like spooked. Um, but yeah, that comes up like on a daily basis, and I don't know why, whatever there is, why wouldn't you just transparently put it out there? Like, why wouldn't you just quash um speculation, doubt, conspiracy stuff, whatever? So like it's obviously a huge issue. I don't know where it stands now. I think it was being Pam Bondi had filed for it to be unsealed, and then actually it was a Democrat appointed judge who blocked it. But I don't know what the latest. I kind of like I have Epstein fatigue.
Yeah, I could understand that for sure. Um, I guess we'll see where that goes. I know that they have claimed that there are concerns that if anybody's name is anywhere in those files, it could basically ruin their lives, regardless of whether they had any part in any nefarious activities, which is understandable.
Yeah, but then you're
But
like gatekeeping. This is like,
uh,
I mean, you're protecting the public from something like,
yeah, I guess it'd be protecting the individuals because somebody like Trump, who's thrusted himself into the spotlight and everything like that, the fact that there's these pictures and videos of him hanging out with Epstein and interacting over the years, uh, that's kind of what you signed up for if you run for president or if you have a television
yeah,
program. But then there are probably other people who have flown under the radar for a lot of years and maybe had some kind of interaction with him, and their name turns up somewhere in those files, and it's presumed that they were involved in very, very bad things as a result. So I could get that that's a part of the concern. But transparency is really what we were expecting from this administration. So you can't have both. It's kind of like you were talking about with freedom of speech. If you're going to have freedom of speech, there's going to be some things that offend some people, and not everybody's going to come out completely unscathed. But what's more important? Is transparency more important, or is protecting these people's reputations who will have the opportunity to defend themselves in the court of public opinion, I suppose? Um, I don't know. I don't. I'm not. That decision is not mine to make ultimately, but that's definitely something that people are concerned about. I want to talk a little bit. You were talking about the accusation of Megyn Kelly receiving money because her position didn't line up 100%, and it reminded me of one of the videos that you and I put out. Probably multiple videos we've put out, but one in particular standing out in my mind because somebody said this is professionally made Russian propaganda. They said something even about the song that they used was very intentional. It's I believe it was the Boston Philharmonic's version of "Love Reign Over Me" by the Who that we used, and I used it because I like the Who. That was the extent of it, but to watch many people seriously accuse you and I of being professionally made Russian propaganda was absolutely hilarious. But I can see every time somebody else gets one of these accusations how it could be frustrating. I kind of just laughed it off. But if you're somebody where it can have any kind of significant implications, maybe most people just ignore it at this point. But that's something that, because we've experienced it firsthand, we kind of understand how ridiculous it is, don't you think?
Which video was it?
I think it was the main Liberals for Trump one, but there were a couple of our videos that people came and said, oh, these guys are Russian propaganda, they're Russian trolls and everything like that, to which I made a response video. I don't know if you saw this one, but I was walking down the street in Beverly Hills just talking into my camera about some of these comments, and I said, yeah, you got me. I've been doing conservative media for 10 years and practicing Second Amendment law so that I can make one clip of Russian propaganda. And then I went on to speak in Russian for the next 30 seconds because I did study it in high school and in college.
Wow.
Which probably
Sounds
drove them
suspicious
nuts.
to me.
Which probably drove them nuts. But yeah, just people, obviously, you and I made a video after meeting in a gym totally by chance. I'm flattered that they think we're that sort of high-level operation to do something like that. But it just hits differently, in my opinion, when you've been subject to that sort of criticism and then you see it happen to people like Megyn Kelly. It's a way for them to brush off anything that they don't agree with, right?
Well, I think Megyn has been accused. She's being accused by mostly centrist or mostly centrist Jews
Mm.
about taking Qatari money. And yeah, I mean, it's absurd and disgraceful. And people are like dumb on the internet, and you know, like, what can we do? I don't like read comments anymore. Really. There's so many bots and all sorts of like crap and slop and stuff. And then just like deranged crazy people. But the Megyn Kelly stuff that I've seen are like I guess you call them influencers or something, but people with large followings making these accusations against her just because all she said was Israel needs to wrap this up. And it was like, oh my God, how dare she, and then it causes such a disservice to reasonable Jews. Like I just did a interview with Marissa Streit, the CEO of PragerU.
Yeah, so that excellent.
She answered this beautifully, and talked about, talked about Charlie Kirk and Megyn Kelly, and alienating people who are friends and supporters of Israel and the Jews because they're not like 1,000% in lockstep. And, being on the right, there are all different opinions, even among the Jewish community. There are all different political persuasions and opinions. But and her other thing was just the cheapening of the term of anti-Semitism and over applying it to so many different scenarios that it loses its meaning. And she likened it to the BLM movement, um, of just like calling everything racist. Um, so I don't know. I have like fatigue from um all of the different reactions of Jews in America about everything that's going on. I'm just like I'm exhausted from it. Um
It's a good point about
yeah.
the ignoring the comments, though, because not only is it exhausting, it'll drive you nuts, and you don't know whether you're talking to a bot or what. Really, it starts to make you sick. I want to get into the aftermath of what happened with Charlie Kirk, because obviously what happened was absolutely horrible, and yeah, made me sick to my stomach to see that happen and know that he's got a wife and kids left behind. But what was even more unsettling was watching the reaction of some people on the left
Hmm.
after this took place.
Yeah.
The people who celebrated it, condoned it, and had those types of reactions. And during one of the press conferences, somebody said something along the lines of one of the law enforcement officers. They're finding high levels of bot activity from outside the country. So beware that some of the people saying these things are not really people. They're foreign governments trying to sow division. Sounds plausible enough. So that's something that I took to heart. But then started to notice people I know personally. And maybe I'm not the greatest friends with them, or maybe not the closest of family members, but notice people that I know personally saying those types of things on social media. And that kind of lets you know, oh, there are people who actually feel this way on the left. This is not just some made up narrative by bots and foreign governments. We are seriously living among other Americans who think that this was a good thing for whatever rationale they have. And that was probably the most disheartening thing about the entire situation. Obviously, this incident itself is horrible, but that compounds it on a very different level. Have you noticed that?
Yeah. Uh yeah. I mean, I've had like personal interactions with people where I'm like just stunned at the callousness and detachment from any like I I think what's happened is that people on the right in America have been so dehumanized that that the people you're referring to are now under like a spell, almost like a kind of psychosis where they've dehumanized people who are associated with a political movement to the point that when a like 31-year-old father of two who engaged in dialogue with people, um who was completely peaceful and I would say even like gentle in his interactions with those kids, is murdered like that. They've dehumanized him and everyone else in this movement to the point that they don't like they feel nothing and feel that a Nazi was murdered, so that this was like a necessary positive political assassination to save us or something. I think that's the degree of like I think it's a psychosis. This kind of dawned on me. I think I mentioned this before at some point, but the first time this dawned on me was when I was at the dog park in Santa Monica, and these two people like overheard my conversation and were screaming at me. This like these people in their 60s. It's always these older people, this woman and this guy. And I was just looking at them and I'm like, it occurred to me, I'm like, these people want me dead. And they would be totally fine if like the if somebody showed up, like the law showed up and just took me away right now, they would be like cheering. or of some like violent, it was chilling. And I think that's it's kind of hard to get your mind around, but I think that's where these people are at. So it makes sense that and it's the same thing with Trump, and the responsibility of this lies on, it's on the Democrats and the media for creating this and programming it over years and years and years. So these people, these like, oh, these boomers, like progressive boomers, think that we are Nazis. So if you think somebody's a Nazi and they want to take over your country and like have a Nazi rule, then in their mind it's justified. Like political violence is justified, and that's where we are. Like
Well,
another,
they always pose that hypothetical: if you could go back in time and end somebody to prevent the Holocaust, would you do it? Right? And that's a hypothetical that's presented relatively often. So when you start to paint uh, an entire group of people, one of the two major political parties, as being a foundational part of something like that in the future, then what kind of reaction are you expecting?
yeah, that was it's so weird. I can't believe any of this is real. I can't believe in 2025, like this is what we're living through. The thing the woman said to me at the dog park also was, get out of here with your hate speech. And she was just like full of rage and like hatred herself. Um, Another incident that right after Charlie's murder, which by the way, I, I've never been so affected by someone being killed who I didn't know personally. Like it really it's really heartbreaking, and tons of people feel that way because they felt connected to him and what he was doing. And right after that, I was at a business that I frequent, and this woman walked in and she knows my political views and she's seen my Instagram and whatever. And she goes, thoughts and prayers. And I was like, what? And I said, you're not talking about like Charlie Kirk's murder. And she said, I was elated.
Really?
And I just like, so I obviously haven't been back to shop at that place since then, but I just like, it's quite, uh, it's jarring.
So,
Or just amongst all of these people, like if this is so the going back to the beginning of your question about this, it this event, one thing that it's done, it's like really defined the divide as something like how far apart we are, and I don't know that there's a way back because it's exposing like where people are at psychologically, and it's quite scary.
it is, because to see that reaction, I have serious doubts as to how we can be countrymen with these people. Is it time that the United States of America begins to discuss an amicable divorce? Because I don't want to live with those people. I don't. I don't see how we can find something in common with those people and be countrymen and, hey, we're all Americans. You know what? When you want half of us dead, or you'd be elated, right? If you'd be elated if somebody died because they disagree with your political views, then no, we're not all Americans.
And that person in particular has been so propagandized herself. Like, I don't know what her internal world is like, but she's been so propagandized that that's where she lands. I'm struggling to, it's almost like not her fault in a way. Um, yeah, I like, I don't, after the Charlie Kirk thing, I was like, is it safe to like, I was like, I think I'm going to move to Orange County. like down to Huntington Beach and just like be around, this is becoming um untenable. And these people are violent. Uh so
Did you ask her, would you be elated if it were me?
no, I don't uh no, I just didn't want to like talk to her anymore, basically.
Too disgusted to continue the
Yeah, it's
conversation.
like it's such an outrage and such a like detachment from your heart, to even on a human level consider like but the thinking is that there's been so much like false stuff put out there about Charlie Kirk by people who didn't never like watch this content, don't know a thing about him.
Yeah,
That
that's probably a good follow-up question is what about him, what about what he did or said makes you feel that way? And I wonder if she would have been able to articulate that properly other than he's some kind of an ist,
Yeah, she would have
that they heard.
like ranting and raving. But that woman, a lot of false stuff was put out. There was that journalist from the Washington Post who made up a quote and attributed it to him
Really?
right after he died, and
I missed that.
she got fired. Karen Atia, I think is her name. And people were like, this is something where the free press would come in and do a centrist article and say like, should she be censored? Ask the question. This is the BS of the centrist, like this free press centrist kind of thing. It's like, no, she's a journalist at a media outlet, and she got this wrong, and she made up a quote about a public figure after he was assassinated. Like, I don't, is there a more grave error or malice that someone could commit in their job as a journalist? She's literally supposed to work in pursuit of the truth. So if that isn't a fireable or a suspendable offense, like I don't know what is. So I don't know what the debate over that even is. And she works for a company. Like she damaged the reputation and the brand of the company. So those kinds of little like side debates about free speech, that's not a free speech issue.
Yeah, you don't get to make
Free
up
to go on
things.
Twitter and be like a moron and not get paid by the Washington Post to do it. Like,
Yeah, that's true too. We're talking about a private company and not a government entity.
yeah,
But even as far as restricting and punishing falsehoods, falsehoods, there's different standard legally when it comes to the media and talking about public figures. But if you didn't care to find out the truth or falsity, or if you knew the falsity, and if you're saying she made it up, she obviously knew it wasn't true. Uh, that's outside of First Amendment protection.
yeah, I don't know if it was made up or a mistake. Like it's unclear now. She's suing the Washington Post.
Do you know what the quote was?
I can't remember what it was, but it was
It
an
was pretty
accusation.
bad.
It was a yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
interesting.
yeah, but that's not like a free speech. That's like, oh yeah, you don't know how to do your job. You're a journalist. It's like you're fired. Sorry. Like, period. End of story.
Doesn't sound unreasonable, right?
Yeah, it's like your job is the truth, like to go and like to verify. And you work for the biggest, one of the biggest media outlets in the country.
Pilot's not supposed to crash the plane.
Yeah.
It's one of the basic requirements of the job.
And the Jimmy Kimmel thing is like the similar, to me, that's not a free speech issue.
The only way it would
I
be is
wish
if they're saying the FCC sort of leaned on ABC
I
as
wish
a result of, but
I wish the FCC guy hadn't said anything or like even commented on it. I think he was asked to comment on it. But he's an employee of that company. If they decide that, whatever he's doing, the content that he's putting out there is like damaging to their business or inappropriate or whatever, like that's their decision, right?
Yeah,
The only issue would be if the FCC were like, if the government were pressuring them. He's also free to do his horrible comedy and show on Twitter or something. Like, Disney doesn't have to like pay him $25 million a year to be like a scumbag.
it's my legal right to be paid $25 million a year.
But it's really like, I mean, you see Angelina Jolie and these other people that are like, they're free speech advocates now. It's really
Yeah.
sick. After everything that's transpired over like the Twitter files, all of like real cancellations and everything, these people are like, how dare you fire Stephen Colbert, who nobody watches and is like losing money and bleeding viewership. Same thing with Jimmy Kimmel, like absurd.
Again, sort of like we are talking about with the quote unquote political prosecution criticisms for Jim Comey by people on the left. Uh, to hear them come out and all of a sudden be champions of the First Amendment is hilarious, yeah, regardless of whether it applies.
Yeah.
But it's hilarious after what's taken place over the
Leave
last
Jim
5
Comey
years.
alone. Leave him alone and leave Brennan alone too.
Yeah. It's like these people.
Guys are like real ghouls.
It makes you. They want you to feel like you have been living on a different planet, though, because I almost question reality when I hear some of the comments that these people make. It's like you can't possibly this be unself-aware as to what you've done over the last 5 years, and now you're criticizing. You can't possibly be serious, can you? Well, they seem to be.
Yeah. I don't know how do you like turn somebody like that around, or how do you connect? What's like the point of connection with someone like that?
They're broken. It's like I also saw that singer that they're. I've never heard of him prior to this, but they were posting that singer who was on stage and said some horrible, horrible things about Charlie Kirk. I don't even want to repeat them.
It's it's like a UK rap group.
Yeah, I'd never heard of him prior. But in the aftermath, he went on and basically denied that he said anything condoning what happened or anything. It's like, all right,
Oh my
maybe
God.
you didn't use that word.
How about also like not being a and it's like if you did, like,
Exactly.
like, man up about it and
If
own
you,
it. Like,
if you're gonna like try to be a tough guy for shock value or whatever the case may be, you can't turn around after the fact and be like, "Oh no, I didn't say that exactly." Come on, man. But it's just again, just another example of how unself-aware these people are. I want to shift gears a little bit because I know that we don't have a ton of time left. And I want to get into something a little more fun. I want to get back into the laws of Jonny Land because I hear that you've passed a new law that you're not allowed to wear cologne.
oh, um, are you referring to yeah.
There's a new law in Jonny Land, no cologne whatsoever
Well, I'm against it.
at all. None.
You could wear like a completely natural essential oil or something. But I've eliminated like every toxic chemical artificial thing from my world. So now I can barely be out in public now, by the way. That's like how I feel. I went to a coffee place yesterday and I was outdoors, the woman sitting like a table away, I started to get a headache from her perfume because it's all chemical and you're just poisoning yourself. It's like full of neurotoxins. It's the same thing when I go to Gold's Gym. All these people are like, they're wearing like body spray. Like, what is body spray? And you become super sensitive. If you remove all of that stuff from your life, I use one kind of soap that's completely natural. Um, and that's it. So
What kind you are?
it's from a guy at the farmer's market.
Oh wow! So
Like
he just
goat
makes it
milk,
himself.
like yeah, he makes it himself. He doesn't believe in conditioner is fake, by the way. You don't even need shampoo. You can use the same soap in your hair.
Mm.
Um, so once you start living like that for a period of time, your senses change. So when you inhale something that is artificial or toxic, I know this sounds ridiculous, but it really affects you.
It
So
doesn't sound ridiculous if
it,
your nose isn't used to that, or
gross. It's like it's overpowering. And it's I think the point I think you're referring to a post I made on Instagram because I got a few other messages about it. It's like I didn't consent to whatever your fragrance is doing to my brain. You know what I'm saying?
mm,
Like I didn't consent to that. It's like it's invasive. Like you're playing with my neurosteroids.
mm. But you just said by admission you're unusual. I don't want to say unusually, but you are more sensitive than the average individual as a result of the lifestyle change, right?
Yes, but my point is it's like it's invasive and it's gross.
You got to toughen up your nose, is what they're gonna say.
No, that's like a dulling to poison. That's like a sign that you've become dull to poison.
I'll bet
Like
that's true. Now,
whatever.
I've always thought that too much cologne is incredibly annoying. We've all been around that guy who's worn
Same
too
thing
much
happens
cologne.
with food. If you eliminate processed food and you eat completely clean, if you then eat something that's like you can feel it in your body and you're
Mm,
like, I don't want this. I can feel what this is doing. It's the same thing.
mm. Have you done that? Have you changed diet to the point where
Yeah.
everything's 100% natural?
Oh yeah.
So you don't eat anything that comes out of a package, or
I eat stuff that comes out of out of a package, but I try to only get stuff that's in glass.
hmm,
Um, and I eat like a lot of grass-fed red meat
it
and
sounds
buy stuff
fascinating.
not exclusively, but I buy stuff from the farmers market directly. Like, um, yeah.
This world would be so much better if we were all able to do that exclusively.
Well, this is all part of the same, like the MAHA, RFK, Make America Healthy Again, regenerative organic farming. Like this is a huge issue also with health, um, glyphosate and like the spraying of herbicides on crops that is poisoning Americans, geoengineering, which is real. It's like chemtrails are real. Um, so all of that stuff is basically making people sick. It's causing the infertility crisis. So it's a big deal. And then you look at like just from a budgetary perspective, all of the healthcare costs from Americans being sick. I think RFK's thing is like you could almost like balance the budget if Americans were healthy.
Did you see that the statement came out about Tylenol and how there's a possibility that it affects autism in
Mhm.
pregnant mothers?
Yeah.
And there were people who came out because this came from the Trump administration and began taking Tylenol on camera as a pregnant, expecting mother, just to simply defy something that was
Yeah.
said by the Trump administration. That's sick, no? If you're willing to do so they say there's this risk to your child, and you do it simply because you want to spite somebody that you don't care for. That seems pretty sick to me, doesn't it?
Yeah, they're like severely mentally ill people.
There was one lady
What?
they reported she
Just like
had severe liver
dying.
damage. Yeah.
Yeah. But this is like what the internet does and social media and TikTok and all this stuff. Like we're confronted with like the most fringe people and we get the George Floyd video of it. So it's like the most extreme thing is going to come to the surface and it's shocking and absurd. But then it becomes part of the conversation, like as if tons of people are doing this. These people are like really sick, um, like very sick. They're practically committing suicide with Tylenol
You got to be
over
nuts.
Trump. It's like, it ain't
Over Trump.
it. Don't do it.
It's crazy.
Like,
They are literally against anything that he does. They're willing to spite anything that he says. There are people who are coming out when they say they're looking into getting to the bottom of what's causing these increased rates of autism over the last several decades. There are so many people who come out and say, well, you know, my child is autistic and they don't need to be cured. They're fine the way they are. We don't need to cure autism. It's like, do you also wish your kid were blind and paralyzed? Like, you wouldn't want your kid to be perfectly healthy? Not to say that his life isn't valuable having autism. Of course it is. And of course we love him no matter what. And of course, you know, he makes your life better. No doubt about that. But you wouldn't want him to be 100% healthy? That's not something that you would hope could happen? And for the next people down the line and the next family? That just seems nuts to me, doesn't it?
yeah, but anything associated with Trump and RFK is an interesting one because he comes from the liberal world, but he's been smeared because he's a threat to the pharmaceutical industry. So he's a quack and a whack job. So anything that comes out in this, it's like a double whammy. It's RFK, who's a quack, and he's part of the Trump administration. So it's double and compounded. Yeah, I mean, all of this is up for debate. I know tons of people who have been made sick or poisoned by the pharmaceutical industry. Like all of this clearly isn't working. And we have a broken system. Like we have a broken health system. All of the stuff I just mentioned about like smells and like natural, it's all at the heart of it, like foundational health. But yeah, RFK, I find it fascinating that even his family has managed to smear him and cast him aside because he doesn't fit. He's not like with the program. Um, yeah. And he's like, I mean, look at him. I think he's 72. He's like, he's like
Have you seen him lately?
healthy and like hiking and.
Have you seen him lately?
I haven't. He must be in Washington.
Yeah.
Because I haven't. I don't think I've seen him at the gym like since during this administration.
Oh, God bless him for
Good. He's like,
doing that.
that's maybe Dan Bongino could take a page and Cash Patel could take a page from his book and just like get to work.
Any other laws in Jonny Land that you've thought of since last time? No laptoppers, no earbuds, no
Just
cologne,
like the headphones and seeing people like
no Apple Watch.
no watch.
Yeah.
Bluetooth headphones are just a no.
I've got an
no.
automatic movement here, so nothing digital about this one. I'm okay. I can stay in Jonny Land.
You're good. Yeah, and now I don't even like wearing. I've been wearing shorts all the time.
Shorts.
It's totally against my like
Oh, wait,
sartorial kind of.
wait. You're wearing shorts, or you're not allowed to wear shorts?
And I'm not today, but I've been wearing them pretty much every day. I like the less fabric or whatever, the better.
Ah.
It feels better, but I also think it's weird for like a grown male to be wearing shorts all the time from a style perspective. But
Charlie Sheen and Two and a Half Men did it all the time.
yeah, well, I, I'm conflicted about it. But maybe there's like a way to do it. You also have to balance, you don't want to look like a ridiculous biohacker. Some of the things just look, I know people wear grounding shoes. Do you know what those are? They have like copper in the sole so that you're grounded to the earth.
No.
Uh, and they're ugly.
Hmm.
Like I get it, I want to ground too. I get like I go barefoot first thing in the morning and get sunlight. It's part of my routine. I do that, but also like I don't know about wearing grounding shoes or those the toe shoes.
I do wear barefoot shoes. It helps my knee and my hip
Oh, that's right.
dramatically,
You wear, yeah, you're a
but
bear.
not. I don't wear the toes though. I don't have the ones that look like gloves on your feet. I do not
Yeah,
wear
like I
those.
know you shouldn't care what people think, but like also I aesthetics are important.
Mm. So no
Like those
finger glove
dog
toe,
shoes. Weird.
no toe glove shoes in Johnny Land. No. So where did we land on shorts? Though you're allowed to wear shorts or no shorts?
I'm conflicted by it now.
Okay.
I'll have
That
to,
one's still in committee. It hasn't made it out of committee yet, that
yeah.
bill.
Um, yeah, I feel like I'm floating around wearing shorts. Like it's not serious. But also it feels better.
Anything else important for laws of Johnny Land? No laptoppers, no earbuds, no Apple Watch. The shorts is still in committee, no cologne, and no finger glove shoes. So
Uh,
we don't even have 10 laws yet. It's not that bad. People think that you're pretty militant with these things, but there's really not that many laws.
yeah. And just, peop if people could just behave in public. The biggest thing is how they behave with their technology,
Hmm.
like around other people, doing calls, doing conference calls in coffee places in public spaces, talking on speakerphone.
Hmm.
Like
That
be
is,
discreet and quiet, like go outside, find a corner. Like younger people have no sense of there's no self-awareness or awareness of being among groups of people or politeness and manners.
yeah, that is annoying when people are talking loud or talking on speakerphone in a public place. I get that.
Yeah, I'm the villain because you know, I'll say something about it.
Somebody's got to do it, right?
Yeah, well, I feel like I'm doing a public service. And there was actually the other day, there was another guy, there was another one of me in this place who went over to this girl in the middle of she's being really loud, and he interrupted her and was like, "Excuse me, can you go outside if you're gonna do that?" And I spoke to him afterwards, and we did like a fist bump, and but I honestly like we're the decent people in that scenario. Like these people need to be corrected. It's like a puppy that gets corrected by an older dog. They need to be like corrected and shamed a little bit.
Do you think that's different about society than it was many years ago, where you kind of respected the elders in your community, who it was commonplace for them to teach younger people about manners?
Yeah, there really aren't any when it comes to technology. There are no manners. And I see older people engaging in this kind of behavior too. But yeah, that's all gone out the window. Like there's no, yeah, that's kind of like gone out the window. Elder respect. Maybe that's the new victim group.
So, can you get any exemptions from any of these laws in Johnny Land? So the one that's got me hung up. Don't do the Apple Watch. The one that's got me hung up is the no wireless headphones. They have to be wired headphones. And you said that it's because if you use the wireless headphones, then you've adopted the technology. I forget exactly how you described it.
You're zapping yourself with EMF waves.
Oh, but isn't that my business if I want to brain,
It's
if I
no, but
want brain damage or whatever?
it's telling me that you're not aware of it.
Hmm. What if I say I'm aware? I'm rolling the dice, man. I smoke cigars. I ride a motorcycle without a helmet. Let's go.
But that's not, this is like an ongoing health issue, and it's like you got sold a bill of goods. You're on board with big tech.
Hmm.
They know that they're zapping you with EMF and you're okay with it. It's like you're consenting to it in exchange for like a little earbud that you can put in your ear.
Yeah, but people smoked cigarettes for years, and it was the same understanding. It's like,
Cigarettes are like
yeah,
a pleasurable thing.
yeah, but the
But
wireless ear, as opposed to having that wire coming down, because I seen you with the wired ones. You got to put it down your shirt and everything like that when you're working out, so you can listen to your music. Otherwise, you're stuck with whatever nonsense is on at Gold's Venice, and they play like the in New York we had a station called 103.5 KTU Cuts, like that dance electronica music that they would play first thing in the morning over at Gold's, which is annoying. And if you want your own music, you either have to have the wire like going down your shirt, and then the phone could move and the jack pops out in the middle of your set and everything like that, or you could just have your phone off to the side, one thing in your ear with a little hat over it, so your buddy who you see every morning for an entire year doesn't even know you have it in your ear. And those are your options. Is it that bad? I'm like the opposition party in Jonny Land for this one issue.
yeah, you are zapping. You've got like a little EMF emitter inside of your ear on a daily basis. And you're either completely unaware of that and you've just bought into the technology, or you're aware of it and you don't care and you're doing it anyway. Typically the problem is that I'll see it and I'm like, that person, like, they don't get it.
Mm,
You don't get it. So, and that's the issue.
mm.
Um, the other thing is, here's something else. Like when I see somebody wearing Bluetooth headphones in public, just walking around like this, like an adult, they're in another world. They're not in the present. If you're like wearing those Apple Bluetooth headphones and you're like on your phone, it's just retarded.
You're a soft target if
Um,
you do that. That is 100%
but
a
also
valid
like,
point.
why are you not, do you not want to be in the world? Do you have to listen to music all the time? Do you have to listen to a podcast? Can you be in silence with yourself? Or you have to be stimulated like 24/7 with some nonsense like playing in your ears? Something you can do. Don't listen to music for a month. Try that. Have you ever done that?
Not listen to any music for a month under any
Nothing.
circumstances.
Nothing.
That'd be hard. I mean, I grew up a musician.
Your relationship to it will change after that.
For the better.
I, it's just different because you come to realize after a period of time, you're like, oh, I didn't realize, you don't realize how much it's influencing you um, on like a cellular level. And basically, you come to realize that verbal music, like rock, whatever, rap, contemporary verbal music, you're basically just listening to someone else's like toxic wound.
Hmm.
That's what it sounds like. It's like it sounds, I hate it. This is like the most overused term of 2025. It sounds demonic.
Hmm. What if it's Christian
Or like
music? What if you
over
so? What if you
even still,
solely listen to Christian music?
even still, it's some sort of, there's some kind of like uh it's some kind of soul cry or primal scream. Like it's toxic.
Hmm.
The only thing that isn't is like I think is nonverbal or chanting.
Like the Gregorian chants.
Yeah, but if you may not even, it might completely change the way you think about or appreciate music.
Mm. I don't know if I want that.
Well, it's scary, but it's like another layer of like, it's another layer
It'd be
of
fun
like
to.
of peeling back, but modernity. Like what
So is music allowed in Johnny Land or it's not allowed?
No, I love music also, but
Okay.
I don't like over listening. I spend lots of time alone and in quiet. I don't listen to music all the time. I don't listen to podcasts all the time. I go like uh hours and hours, and typically on today on Saturday, like I would I'm not religious, but I would shut my phone off completely
Mm.
for the whole day today and just be in silence from last night until tonight.
Interesting. Did I turn you on to that movie Against the Tide? Did we talk about that?
No.
Got to send you that. I got a couple of things. I know that you said that the next time we get together, you'd like to talk a little bit about Christianity and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Would be very cool. I will ask you in advance of that to take a look at a couple of documentaries, I guess you would call them, just interesting points. Probably about an hour and a half a piece. One of the, I think you'll really enjoy them because you're an intellectual and you're a critical thinker, and you'll appreciate how they delve into these issues from an intellectual standpoint, particularly Against the Tide with Professor Lennox, which, very, very brilliant man who's often arguing against atheists, such as, I think he argued against Stephen Hawking and forget the other guys. Who's the prominent Dawkins? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I'll get that over to you. But that'll be an interesting conversation. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. It seems like everyone's converting to Christianity.
Yeah. Well, you and I talked about it on. I don't think it was our first conversation. It might have been our second or third. How we definitely have a godlessness problem in this country, and people are turning to many other things, and it's not good what they're turning to. And we see the end result of that.
That would cover like pretty much everything we've discussed today. Is like a disconnection from, and I don't even think it's a necessarily an organized religion thing. It's like a disconnection from your heart and from um something greater is what makes people like chimp out and take Tylenol because Trump
Right.
or dehumanizes like a 31-year-old father of two kids who's like a good person. That is a disconnect. Whatever your conception of God is, like that is disconnected from God.
Right. Yeah. It's making something else God. Something. I don't want to say the Trump derangement syndrome, but the opposition to Trump basically becomes the God.
But isn't that what basically what leftism is, like what communism is?
Yeah. Yep. It is. It's something's going to replace it, right? They talk about the God-sized hole in your heart, and something's going to replace it, and just depends on what it is. And for more and more people, I hate to say it, even people on the right, politics is replacing that hole for a lot of people. It's not good. Not good.
I agree. I think a lot of something else that I've noticed, I think a lot of political influencers online are basically, there are a lot of addicts and alcoholics that are, some are in recovery, some are not. And what I observe is a lot of people um, basically spouting like unprocessed rage from trauma. And that's what their political activism is.
Mm.
And I've seen like, I'm not going to name, like it's none of my business, but I hear backstories of people and it's like, oh, I've been sober for 3 years. Oh, I've done that. Like, so I have my theories about things, but that seems to be, it's like left and right. It's like, it's like an unaddressed rage fest.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And people take on, like, it becomes a personality. Also, you like, oh, this is like my uh this is who I am now. I'm like a leftist, or I'm MAGA, or whatever. It's just like another false self.
Yeah. I don't think that's, even if I agree with them politically, I don't think that that's good. I think that's just a band-aid for certain societal issues. And we're going to end up in a very bad place.
Yeah, and
We're all right. We're in a pretty bad place as it is, but
yeah, and the meanness behind it is not good. I have to catch
right.
like watch myself.
Yeah.
Because
That's
we're
true.
also like you get pushed, like I mentioned at the beginning of this conversation, from like being kind of nice and curious about being public about being a Trump supporter like a couple of years ago, to now I'm just like like I've had enough. And people don't, there is no, increasingly, I find that there is no, like, you're not going to convince anybody. Everyone has to have their own journey and like wake up to it however they do. All I can do is like, that's why I, put stuff out there, is I hope that someone will uh, hear a reasonable voice from someone with my background, which is maybe atypical for the politics that I'm involved in, and resonate with that, like without being, but the more I engage with people now, it just seems like it's making me worse and things seem worse.
I hear that, brother. Yeah, it is definitely getting more difficult. I think that the platform on the left has gotten more and more extreme. There are so many people who are 2012 Democrats who are now considered extremists, extreme right by people on the left, right? And when you do that, when they move further and further, it becomes more difficult to not be that divided. All in all, I think the only thing that's going to back on track of this country is God, but that's for a different conversation. One last point I wanted to make. You were talking about how people having the over-the-ear headphones, or even having two headphones in. I don't know if you met Chris when I was in LA, but Chris was on WFYL with me. He was on the show for several
Oh yeah,
years
yeah, I met Chris. Yeah.
as the co-host, and he had always like made sure to tell me, hey, make sure you only have one of those things in if you're ever at the gym or if you're ever in public. Make sure you only have one of those things. And it's like, yeah, dude, I grew up in Brooklyn. I know about being self-aware. I'm always looking in all different directions. Not something I would do. But he always seemed to feel the need to let me know. Sure enough, he was on the train in Philadelphia while I was in LA and was sitting there watching a video with two earbuds in. And what happened? Somebody came over, cracked him in the head, took his phone, and ran off the train.
You're kidding.
I swear. 100%.
It got jacked.
Just got jacked. And he knocked like one of his teeth out and stuff.
Oh my.
And,
Oh no.
and of course the police are like, oh yeah, we'll look into it. They're never finding that guy. And that's it. That's just
Terrible.
the way things happen in Philadelphia these days. But definitely important. Though we might disagree on whether you can wear them at all, we will both agree that you should not be wearing two, particularly in public. So I'm the opposition party in Jonny Land. I advocate for one earbud, and just a little bit of cologne should be allowed. So
it's a free country.
No, it's violating the laws of Jonny Land. I like the Jonny Land rules. Those are awesome. You got to let me know if the shorts are still in committee, so we'll check back on you with that one next time.
Right.
I know that you've got to run. Any parting words?
I don't think so.
All right. This has been a lot of fun, as always. I'll see you again in a few weeks, I suppose, right?
Awesome. Yeah. We need you back out in LA.
That would be great. Maybe I'll make it out there for a week or so. We'll get a bunch of content made. It'll be fun.
Great.
We miss you, Ellie. Daddy loves you. Thanks for tuning into the Mike G and the Garbage Gang podcast. If you want to be a proud member of the Garbage Gang, we need you to like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, check out one of the recommended videos, and comment. Tell us what you think. We love having you as a member of the Garbage Gang. We'll see you next time.